Karthik and Will. Who organized this meeting, brought us all together, told us about the people whose lives are literally on the line based on what we do, or what we might fail to do at this defining moment of truth for Texas and for the country. But first, I just want to say that we should take some sign of optimism and find some hope in the fact that so many of us chose to be here tonight and came out. This is a real testament of faith in our country, in its democracy, and our ability to overcome these challenges that we face. I mean, you told me right now that you felt so defeated, distressed, depressed, tempted to despair after the election in November. And you said when you heard this meeting was coming together, you wanted to come here and you felt so much better just upon arriving. So I want to thank you for having that determination, taking that step, that act of faith, and moving with us. I talked to two of our Powered by People volunteers as I was coming in, Becca and Jeff, who were trying to sign you all up to join them as volunteers. And both of them told me they have never been so fulfilled as they are right now. It's not easy work. We train you to become a volunteer deputy registrar. You have to take a test to get your certification. You thought you were done with that stuff in high school in 2 months. We then send you out in the beautiful Houston summer to sweat through your clothes and meet unregistered, eligible Texans where they are, bring them onto the rolls, and then personally choose to stay in touch with them every single election cycle. Here's what you need to vote. Here are the candidates who align with your values. Here's the form of voter ID that you need. Here's when early voting starts. Here's your nearest polling location. All the things that those who are in positions of power right now try to keep from those who are out of power to ever have to relinquish their power in the first place. The only way that we're going to get it back, it won't be through money. It won't be through social media. It won't be through technology. There is no silver bullet or magic button. It is getting out there and doing the hard work and allowing yourself to hope and understanding that the consequence is that your heart might be broken. Who among us has not had their heart broken by the state of Texas? In 2018, 2020, 22, 24, we don't have enough time for me to name all the years and all the ways in which Texas has tried to break us down. But we continue to step up and stand up to be counted at these moments of truth. And never before, in the entirety at least of our lives, and you'd be hard-pressed to find so in the life of this country, has so much been on the line. The very question of America, 249 years into this thing, is in the balance right now. And just think about this. I know the days are dark, and the hour is late, and the window is closing. I mean, it is pretty damn dire. Let's not kid ourselves. But 249 years into this, think about the generations that preceded ours and what they were up against. Freeing themselves in 1776 on forward from the mightiest empire on the planet at the time. Not even 100 years later, deciding the issue of whether one American could own another American, and whether a part of this country could rise in rebellion to the whole, sacrificing 300,000 lives, Union dead, in that war, to determine whether we are in fact created equally and will be treated equally under the law. And then if you're thinking about heartbreak, imagine Reconstruction in Texas. And not too far from where we are, Fort Bend County elects the first African American to serve in the position of sheriff in any county in the United States of America. And we do that right here in Southeast Texas, right? Only to have white supremacists and the full force and power of the Texas government, under Governor Sol Ross at the time, come in and ride to the rescue of those terrorized whites, not unlike the Afrikaners who were welcoming as refugees right now to the United States of America, and forcibly evicted every black office holder from those positions of public trust to which they fairly and freely and and democratically were elected into in the first place, if you think your heart is broken, how did that feel for those office holders in Fort Bend County back then? To see everything that those who had died in that Civil War had won to be lost for 90 years of absolute, complete darkness, segregation, and Jim Crow in America. And Karthik said it earlier. How did we win it back? I mean, yes, thank God for LBJ, the first president of the state of Texas, who used all of the political capital at his disposal to get civil rights across the line. But why did he do it? It was the nameless and thankless and unsung heroes, just like the people in this room who went decade after decade, year after year. Some of them losing their lives in the process. Lynched, strung up, tortured, brutalized, and killed. We'll never know their names, but for their sacrifice, their struggle, their service. Where would we be right now? The next year, 1965, after LBJ has told Dr. King and Andrew Young, look, I'd love for you to be able to vote in Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, the states of the former Confederacy, but I used it all on civil rights. I just don't have the power. And King walks out of that meeting and he tells Young, we got to go get this guy some power. And so every day thereafter, at the end of 64, into 65, everyday Americans, you and me, we're marching to the courthouse steps. We're talking to our state legislators. We're lighting up the switchboard at the Capitol. We're calling the president. We're marching. We're protesting. We're sitting. We're doing everything we can think to do to break through. Until one of us, 24-year-old John Lewis, in Selma, Alabama, on the 7th of March, 1965, with 600 fellow Americans at his back, finally does. And those images transmitted around the world of this guy getting beat nearly to death for having the courage of his convictions so shocked, galvanized the conscience of this country that LBJ, our favorite Texan in the White House, is able to call a joint session of Congress together on the 15th of March, just 8 days later. And he reminded us at that time, he said, look, this is a really rare thing in America, so pay attention. As it was at Lexington and Concord, as it was 100 years ago at that courthouse in Appomattox, he could have added, as it was in June of 44 on those beaches in Normandy, when everyday Houstonians were willing to give their lives to fight fascism overseas and defend democracy here at home. So it is today in Selma, in the year of our Lord, 1965. Everyday Americans willing to do whatever they have to do, even if it includes giving their lives so that we fulfill our promise to ourselves, to the rest of the world, to this generation, and everyone that follows. Well, I'll tell you what. Johnson was not just talking about John Lewis. He wasn't just talking about those who marched in 1965. He was talking about us. This is our moment of truth, where the question is being called, who are we? Will we submit to the powerful and strong? Will we continue to be governed by the rule of law? Will we allow this would-be tyrant to undermine the Constitution and the rule of law, to turn his back on these hard-won alliances that were won by people from this community 80 years ago on those beaches in Normandy? Or will we take the sides of dictators and fascists against democracies and free people? I mean, this one is on us. And so listen, I'm with you. I've had my heart broken a couple of times by the state of Texas, okay? I put myself out there with you. Starting way back in 2017, when I showed up here, an unknown congressman from West Texas, you all showed up to greet me, to meet me, to welcome me, to say that you would have my back, and you were with me through the 253 other counties of the state. And listen, though we did not beat Ted Cruz in that race, and man, I'm sorry about that. But think about what happened around the rest of the state. 12 insurgent Democrats defeated 12 incumbent entrenched Republicans in the state house. People running for Congress who had no business beating these well-funded Republican incumbents like Colin Allred, who defeated Pete Sessions in North Texas, or Lizzie Pamela Fletcher, a little bit closer to home. They won their elections. We defeated an incumbent Republican county judge in Harris County. 17 amazing, strong women won judicial positions right here in Harris County. We can do this stuff. But look, I hope you're seeing the pattern here, right? We make this transformation possible in Texas. And then what happens? In 2019, the next legislative session, they changed the election laws to make it that much harder for those who propelled these victories to ever have a chance to vote again. So the point is today, this is the toughest state in the nation in which to cast a ballot. It's the toughest state in the nation in which to register to vote. The toughest in which to participate in our politics. But 9 million registered Texans didn't vote in 2022 when the most obscene abortion ban in America was on the ballot. When 21 lives from Uvalde were on the ballot. When a power failure that killed 700 people in the energy capital of the fucking world was on the ballot. It is not that those 9 million people don't care. It sure as hell is that they're lazy. It is just that they have effectively and realistically and functionally been drawn out of the ability to participate in this democracy. Our answer has to be, we got to draw them back in. And so, look, do what you can with what you have where you are. If it's volunteering for one of these great campaigns, if it's signing up with the Harris County Democratic Party, if it is with us empowered by people, we will not ask you to wait until 2026. We certainly aren't talking about 2028. We're saying right now, we will train you, we will get you out there, we'll bring these people in, and then we will not leave them to their own devices to try to figure out this voter suppressive state on their own. We will stay in touch with them. We will be their voting Sherpas going forward. Last thing. Saturday last, we acknowledged the 3-year anniversary of those 21 beautiful souls that I just referenced in Uvalde, Texas. Then the 19 kids, many of whom could only be recognized by the shoes that they were wearing by their parents. Those 2 teachers, and for my educators in the room, you know what I'm talking about, right? You have already sacrificed the best years of your life to draw forth the talent and genius of those kids before you in the classroom. And I know you're getting filthy rich doing it, and that's okay, that's your business. In all seriousness, you're working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet for the privilege of teaching our kids. And in this state, which leads the nation in school shootings right now, we also ask you, as those 2 teachers did, to potentially sacrifice your very life for those kids. Well, not only is it the 3-year anniversary of that god-awful shooting, and this state's failure. You know, God didn't do it. It wasn't a hurricane or a natural disaster. This is the consequence of human decisions that human beings who are in human positions of power have made, and who bears the cost of that? We do, and our kids do. Driving my son Henry to school the other day, and man, if that thought has not crossed your mind, then probably you're not paying attention. And it definitely crosses mine every single time I drop them off. But those Uvalde parents who could be forgiven for ducking out and saying, you know what, this state failed me, this country failed me, our politics failed me, they're out there meeting with legislators in the state capitol, running for office, putting themselves out there. If you have your heart broken, think about how they feel. And then lastly, there is, in this room, an extraordinary woman who 7 years ago lost her daughter in the Santa Fe high school shooting. Kimberly, who I carry a picture with me everywhere I go. This is incredibly beautiful soul. You can see it beaming out of her eyes when you look at that picture, or you hear the stories from her mom. And in the wake of that tragedy and that almost unbelievable loss for those of us who have not experienced it, God willing. Again, if you've experienced heartbreak, think about what she has experienced. But not only did she not duck out, not only did she move away, this woman who served our country in uniform, who served in our public schools, who has served and run for office, she got after it, wrote a bill to try to prevent this from happening to any other child, took it all the way to the United States Congress, met with Republicans and Democrats alike, and she got that sucker passed in 2020. We cannot be found wanting either. These are our heroes. You know, as Johnson put Lewis in that pantheon of great heroes, I put those of us here who are willing to stand and fight at this moment of truth in that same list. So look, I know we have our work cut out for us. I mean, the movie version of this, when they make it, is going to be really interesting, right? The president has all the political power. It's not just in his office. It's not just his defiance of the Constitution, the rule of law. He has a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. He has the House of Representatives. He has the U.S. Senate. He has the Texas State Legislature eating out of his hand. He has the governor of this very proud state of 30 million doing his bidding. The richest man on the planet is his henchman, who's willing to spend any amount of money to assure that his political agenda is realized. And then, for those of you who spend time on social media, shame on you. No. For those of you who spend time on social media, I do it too. You know that the masters of the algorithms and the influence where we, the people, have become the product, they're in the tank with this guy as well. And so you're wondering, like, who the hell am I? Beto O'Rourke, or Rhonda, or Chris, or Athene. Who am I against all of that? But just remember, who was it that challenged successfully the British Empire in 1776? Who brought the Confederacy to its knees and defeated that courthouse in 1865? Who landed on those beaches in 44? Who marched behind John Lewis in 65? It wasn't the people in political office. It sure as shit was not the billionaires. It wasn't the media moguls. It was us. It was the people. It will always be the people. We are going to come through. Are you all with me? We are, with my friend Doreen's help, we're going to take two things. This is at Elsa's suggestion, which I thought was brilliant. You know, typically at these town halls, we take questions, and folks will stand up, and I'm happy to answer your questions if you have. Hey, Beto, what do you think about this? Or how are we going to deal with that? And I'll give you my best guess. It's probably not going to be better than anyone else's here. Perhaps even more powerful is if you want to stand up and you want to give me your ideas or your answers to the questions on your mind, or just what is happening in your life in Humboldt or Harris County or Montgomery County or Kingwood or Houston or wherever you happen to live or call home. I don't live here. I mean, it's a short drive in Texas terms. It's about 12 hours west of San Antonio. But you know this area a lot better than I do, right? And so not only are there, Chris, how many people do we have here tonight? Maybe 10,000? So I want to know that the 1,000 Muscle Mills people who are here, or the many more who are watching on the live stream, when you stand up right now, they're going to get to hear you as well. And look, I'm interested in the broadest possible understanding of where we are as a country. So if you are a Republican and you voted for Donald Trump in the last election, I am so glad you're here. You are welcomed in this meeting, and we want to hear from you, okay? If you're a Democrat, we're glad to hear you as well. Independents, voters, non-voters, fifth-generation Texans, folks who just got to the most diverse city in the United States of America 5 days ago, all of you are welcome here in this meeting. We want to hear from you, okay? A united front is how we're going to get this done. So let's make sure that we listen to one another. We don't have to agree, but we're going to do our best to be respectful and civil and treat one another with dignity. So again, to Karthik, who brought this meeting together, invited us out, to Will, who provided the context for who's going to be heard if we don't succeed. Thank you for bringing us here. And now Doreen is going to recognize you. If you raise your hand, and I'm not in control of the microphone, Doreen with the striped shirt. Doreen, raise your hand so people can see you. If you raise your hand, catch her attention, she'll bring you the mic. I've been instructed, if you do ask a question, to respond with a quick answer so we get as many people in. If you have an idea, a suggestion, or something you want the rest of the world to know, or interested in that as well. So Doreen, we're turning it over to you.
Okay, our first question, Beto, is going to be right over here.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Grace He, and I live in Harris County, Texas. And I stand up for health care for everyone. President Trump wants to take it away from all of us, and he's not going to, he needs to keep his hands on Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Keep your hands on Donald Trump.
What we want to know is how you really feel about this. I love that energy, I love that passion. I think that fight is what it's going to take to stave off certain disaster. And I think Karthik and maybe Will even are too nice about this. Not only will people suffer, not only will they be forced to do without it, they are going to die. We met a young man in Laredo, Texas, Joey, came up to me at a meeting like this, and he said, Beto, you were talking about healthcare earlier. Let me tell you my story. I have diabetes, I have glaucoma, I don't have insurance, I don't qualify for Medicaid in Texas because we didn't expand it even though we invented the thing here in 1965. And I went to a doctor. First time I've seen a doctor in my life. This guy was in his 20s. And he said, Joey, you are going to be dead by the age of 35. Your diabetes and glaucoma untreated, that is the end. Joey was able to find a federally qualified health center, which is the kind of the last ditch resort if you can't get in to a Medicaid provider in Texas. Got the health care he needed, just graduated from college in his early 30s. He's on his path to success, but guess what? To your point right now, Donald Trump is going to cut the funding to those federally qualified health centers. So not only are Medicaid recipients going to lose their health care, the option of last resort is going to be gone for our fellow Texans, and we will see unmitigated suffering if we do not stand up right now and politically push back and force them to do the right thing. So we're with you in your fight. We stand with you, and we've got to win this one. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right,
Hey there. My name's Ethan. I'm a student. I'm an organizer, and I'm on Medicaid along with SSI, SNAP. I guess more of my question is, like, how are we supposed to bridge that gap on a local level? I mean, specifically, I live in Houston. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the same Trumpian cuts with our mayor. Right now, he cut $4 million from public work, health to public health. I mean, what are we supposed to do to bridge that gap? I mean, with my medication, it's $25,000 a month out of pocket is what I'm looking at here. And even with the Medicaid coverage, I mean, we're looking still $5,000 a month. I mean, how are we supposed to expand these programs beyond what they are as is? I mean, I feel like they're just not enough.
Are you telling us right now that if these programs are cut for you, your out-of-pocket expense monthly will be $25,000?
That's absolutely correct.
And right now, already with the coverage that you have, limited as it is in Texas and the city of Houston, it's $5,000 out of pocket?
If I didn't have private insurance, it would be $5,000 a month.
Okay. So this is so helpful because sometimes when we're talking about the 1.3 million people we cut from Medicaid in the state of Texas, I mean, it makes an impact, but I don't know how to wrap my head around 1.3 million. When I see your face, and we're looking at each other eyeball to eyeball, human to human, in the same room, and I know that you are going to be SOL if you're forced to pull $25,000 that you do not have. I bet because who among us has $25,000 extra a month to spend on staying alive? I mean, we now care about you, and we got to come through for you. And let me tell you something this is kind of a roundabout way to answer your question. So you mentioned that the mayor and the city council have some purview. And I know that Abby's going to be on the right side of this issue. I saw her mom here earlier. We know the county judge has some power. Obviously, the governor, the state legislature, and the president. And many of us are thinking about 2026, and we're going to just, knock those rat bastards out of office in 2026. And by 2027, we're going to replace them, we're going to fix this. But do we have time for 2026? I don't think so. And so there's this line I want to run by you. And I'm sorry for all the history today, but this one gets me. 1858. Former congressman, running for Senate, loses his race, I can identify. Is giving a speech in Illinois about the nature of power in America. And he's talking about presidents, legislatures, mayors, governors, the folks that we're talking about right now. And he says, more powerful than all of them is all of us. This is Abraham Lincoln. He says, public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. 1965, just like 2025, was a quote-unquote non-election year. That's the year that John Lewis leads that march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. That's the year that President Johnson is forced to use the power he was given to pass voting rights and create a democracy for the first time in American history. They didn't wait for an election. They didn't wait for orders from the Democratic National Committee or the Texas Democratic Party or the people in office or power. They took power upon themselves and made something that would otherwise be impossible happen. In 2018, I don't know if you all remember this, Trump implemented a policy that they called zero tolerance in the White House. We called it family separation. You had arrived at our front door 2,000 miles after starting your journey to protect your little baby girl who was going to face certain death should she remain in Guatemala or El Salvador or Honduras or wherever you began that journey. You walked most of those miles. Some of that you rode at the top, but never inside of a train called the Beast or La Bestia. And when you get to this country that is comprised of asylum seekers and refugees and migrants from the entire planet over, finally receiving the refuge you were looking for to save your life, and when you get here because of Trump, they literally took that child from your arms, deported you back to Honduras, and placed her in foster care in Harris County or Ohio or Maine, and literally God only knows where. Many of these families, 7 years later, have yet to be reunited. Now, you were outraged. You thought that this was wrong. You were not going to allow this to be done in your name. And so you rose up, you protested, you marched. Many of you met us in Tornillo, Texas on June 18, 2018. It was Father's Day. I remember it well. I was there. 1,000 people convened on this small little town in the very corner of El Paso County. Again, a 12-hour drive from where we are right now. But Tornillo, Texas was a town where the Trump administration had set up this encampment, these tents, where they were keeping these kids, unaccompanied minors, who'd been stolen from their parents. And 1,000 of us raised our voices so those kids inside those tents knew that we knew that they were in there, and that we were not going to stop fighting until they were released and reunited. And we also wanted to bear witness and testify to our fellow Americans just what was happening in this country. We said, look, America, look at this. Do not turn your back. Do not avert your gaze. This is being done in your name, and it will be the lasting shame of this country if it continues. So many people rising up. So much political pressure. So much, in Lincoln's words, public sentiment, that Donald Trump, on June 20th, 2 days later, rescinded the family separation policy and began the process of reuniting those families. That is the power of people. So if you care about this young man, and his ability to stay alive, you care about any of the people who are being affected by the cruelty and corruption and incompetence on display in the highest positions of power, this is the time to raise your voice, to stand up and be counted. And so if someone in this meeting says, hey, folks, I'm going to be hanging out with a sandwich board on my body at this intersection tomorrow morning, let's all join that person. We'll be the fellow crazy people on that corner. But people will be paying attention because there will be more of us. If someone's going to lead a march, if someone's going to show up at city council at their next regular meeting and bring attention to this to try to get supplemental funding for those who are going to lose it, let's make sure that we join them as well. There is power in numbers. There is power in people. All right. Let's see.
Hey, Beto. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Hey, Beto. I'm out of Wharton County, and I drove up here. Same reason a lot of the young people are here, because I'm just pissed off. And I have lost sight. And especially here in Texas, there's no reason that Democrats should have lost. See, this was a Democratic state for years. When I was young, right? My parents, my grandparents were Democrats. But guess what? My brother, my son-in-law, get this, Trumpers. Not Republicans, right? Trumpers. You get that? You understand that? Because of messaging, right? Yeah. Because I represent labor. I'm a truck driver, right? Our friends are rednecks, blacks, Mexicans, right? try to get a hold of them. Hey, y'all got the wrong message to the wrong people. They not articulating the message. Talk to them, not about them. Why did y'all lose the Valley? Why was the Valley lost? That should have never happened. But because nobody's listening. See, I have friends and family in the Valley. I left the Valley. For one reason. Same reason the other folks are complaining. That's why I left. I had to leave. I wasn't going to be flat broke all my life. Because there's an issue in the Valley. See, and nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to see it. See, it's easy to come across from Mexico into the Valley. But those folks are stuck there. You see, and that creates a problem. They can't get past checkpoint. They're not going to go past 63 miles is checkpoint. They're safe from the checkpoint to the border. So what does that mean? They stay in the Valley, right? And it makes it difficult. You know how much I was making there? I was working in bodegas. You know what a bodega is, right? Sure you do. $1.50 an hour. Now, in this bodega, everybody that was around me was from Mexico. They crossed. Good workers. I have no issue with them. But because they worked for less, I had to accept less. $1.50 an hour. I was clearing fence lines, $17.50 a day. That was my pay. So y'all understand why I had to live, right? For my family, for myself, for my dignity, right? But will the Democrats address this issue? No. They're not going to. They haven't been to. You will. You will. You're going to address that issue. The Democrats in this state are going to address it. If not, I will. If I have to run, I will run. We're going to respect the poor and the labor in this community and in this state. When I was young and I landed here in the Houston area, I had white guys and black guys working on the construction sites with me. I don't even know where they're at now. I'll go to the same sites. It's all Hispanic. I got no issue with them, right? They're hardworking. They're building the community, right? But let's not forget the white guy. Where did he go? Because he can't get on that job site. The black guy, he can't get on that job site. I can, because I'm equal, right? So it's easy for me, but not for the rest of them. We got to stop forgetting these folks. We got to remember who's out here. Because I look around, I don't see my friends here, right? You know, veo la raza. ¿Dónde está la raza?
Thank you for everything you said, and I think part of the reason you're seeing so many heads nodding and hearing so much applause is you're absolutely right. If we don't show up and meet people where they are literally, I mean, whether we come here today, or you made the trip to see us, which I'm so grateful for, or if we're not in the Valley, or if we're not in Maverick County in Eagle Pass, where I had the chance to listen to someone who said, hey, Beto, lifelong Democrat, never miss an election, always vote blue. But I got to tell you something, to your point. Last night there were about 20 people tromping through my backyard at 2 a.m. And listen, I'm all for being generous, I'm all for immigration reform, I'm all for welcoming people to this country. But if we don't know who it is, and if it comes at the expense of my family and our safety, then I'm pretty pissed off that somebody's got to do something about it. And our message, present company excluded, was, you know what, that's a Republican talking point. There's really nothing for you to worry about. We're making some tweaks to the asylum process. Everything's going to be okay. When we talk down to people, when we fail to listen to people and reflect back what they're hearing and experiencing, it is demeaning. It is not what people want. And if the other guy, as cruel as he may be, all of the family separation, the kids in cages, the incitement to political violence, the massacre of 23 people in El Paso by someone who was inspired by Trump to, as he said, repel the Hispanic invasion. If they nonetheless voted for him in greater numbers, and they did in 2024 in El Paso County, Hidalgo County, and Maverick County, we had better listen to the message. And it's not that people want cruelty. It's not that they want us to hurt one another. It's not that they want us to close the border down completely or not let another single soul into this country. But they want to make sure that it's regulated, that it's controlled, that it's safe, that it's legal. That when Democrats have been talking for as long as I've been alive about comprehensive immigration reform, when they get some fucking power, they actually pass comprehensive immigration reform. Check this out. President Obama, one of the greatest people we'll ever know, one of the greatest presidents in the history of this country. The reason that so many people have health care despite the stinginess and cruelty of the state of Texas right now is because of that man. But in 2009, we had the White House, we had the House, we had the Senate, and we didn't pass comprehensive immigration reform. Joe Biden, who did more than almost any other modern president to cut childhood poverty, to address climate change, to invest in infrastructure, to reduce the lines that Donald Trump tried to blow up the new president. He had the White House, he had the House, he had the Senate in 2021. No comprehensive immigration reform. So, let's listen to the voters and our fellow Americans right now. I said, listen, both parties are talking about this thing. Democrats keep praying and hoping and promising, and they just, for whatever reason, they're good folks. I get it. They just don't deliver. And this other guy, I really don't like him, but he's gonna fucking do something. And so I'm gonna take my chances with him. What do I have to lose? So listen, I mean, we're full of blame for Trump and Republicans and the Quisling and cowards who enable him. I get that, and I share that. But we've got to look, to the gentleman's point, we've got to look in the mirror. And Democrats are culpable. They're complicit in this. They share some blame. When we cook up messages in labs in D.C. with the data and focus groups and consultants and scientists, and don't listen to the people in Maverick County or Wharton County or Liberty, Texas, then we cannot blame them if they choose not to vote for us in the next election. Present company, all of us together, we are not going to make that mistake. We're going to follow your guidance. We're going to show up, listen to people, and reflect it back. And last thing, let me tell you, we talk in generalities, we talk in numbers, we talk in policies, we talk in promises. When I was running for Senate in 2018, this really struck me. I'm at the Houston Airport, Bush International, IAH. And these two workers there recognized me. They come up to me, we're talking, and ask them how it's going, tell me what you do here. And they're like, well, this is the third job I work. And so why is this the third job you work? It's because I make $7.25 an hour working at Bush International Airport. No, you don't. Are you serious? Nobody gets $7.25 an hour anymore. I know that's a minimum wage. No, we really do. We're happy to show you our pay stub. So what does it mean, to the gentleman's point, when we hear a story like that? What do we do? Part of the reason that we acknowledge Elsa Caballero, who's the head of SEIU Texas, is that not only is she a hometown hero here in Humble, Texas, this is where she lives, like 5 or 6 minutes from where we are. She fought for those workers and got them $15 an hour at the 2022. And listen, 15 is not what it was to me either, but it is a hell of a lot better than twice as much of what they were earning. So not only do we have to deliver when we're in power after we promise that we will, that's what Elsa and Biden were able to do, then we've got to talk about it and share it with people. See, this is what happens when you put good people of good faith into these positions of public trust. So thank you for being here and for making the drive. All right, Therese, where are you?
Hi, Beto. This is personal for me. And we were talking about it a lot. We talked about that sandwich generation, and I've been there with my children and taking care of my parents. There's a generation of us taking care of our loved ones. The man I love most in the world has Parkinson's for 30 years. He's 77. I'm his only caretaker. So I'm expecting you to run for office because I got a job for you. And I will canvas for you, and I want you to fix this. I make just enough money that as long as I can keep him at home, we're good. And I'm 72. And my best case scenario is I outlive him. If I don't, where will he go? Because when that very little money runs out, there's not going to be a Medicaid there to pick him up, take care of him. He'll be alone. So there are those of us who have partners. And I'll say just one more thing to it, because nobody talks about that research dollars that are getting hammered. And that really makes me mad. We act like this is an elitist issue. It's not. It everyone here. Everyone here. You know, I don't expect a miracle cure for my husband, but every treatment they give that gets me just one more day or one more year of memories I can make with him is worth it. And we have got to fight that and fight that hard. So,
So, you know, we were talking about how when we talk about Medicaid cuts or the cruelty of this administration or people who are getting hurt, it can be an abstraction, and you can be forgiven for not being able to wrap your head around the problem. But what you just said, the most powerful fucking thing in the world is love. And you love that man probably more than you love anything else, and you care about him, you want him to be okay. And all of us here are seeing this, we're hearing this, we're feeling this, and we are with you. And if you are not fired up to fight back and win for this country, please find yourself fired up and ready to fight back to win for her and her husband. Are you
if you know somebody with cancer, that research affects you. If you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, losing that research affects you. If you've got someone with any neurodegenerative disease, that research affects you. And this bastard is taking it away.
Our next question is going to be over here.
Yeah, I think the agreement, ma'am, is not that I need to run for office, but that you need to run for office.
I'm on Medicare, and I'm so grateful for it. 2 years ago, I got COVID and pneumonia and a ruptured colon. And I was 10 days later, I got out of the hospital, healing nicely, and not a single bill to have to pay. This was such a blessing. Now, my question to you, my issue now is, and maybe some other seniors can speak to this, but boy, those scammers are out there. They're a lot better than they used to be. The biggest scammer I've got calling me twice a day, sending me letters twice a day. The emails never end, and the text messages never end. And it's Medicare disadvantage. They're trying to take away something that works beautifully. And they're trying to, you know, it's just, and it's my tax dollars that are paying for all of this to be spent to try to get me to change from a Medicare system that works. And it must be a lot. I mean, because of all the calls and texts and everything that I get every day, they're 2 letters that come every day. So I want my tax dollars to stop being spent trying to scam me. So,
Thank you. So I want to address the requests you made, but I hope everyone heard. We're glad that you're okay, given everything that you went through. The reason that you're okay, is the state of Texas. It's LBJ in 1965, 60 years ago. It's Medicare. It's this program that worked, and you can focus on getting better and healing and being healthy, and not trying to find money or going into medical debt or bankruptcy, which happens to millions of Americans all across this country. I'll tell you a funny thing happened 2 weeks ago. I get a call from senator from a small state near me on Bernie Sanders. And he's, every now and then, to his credit, and this guy, he's a real deal. He was calling and checking on Texas. He really believes in Texas. And he said, Beto, you tell me if this is the case. He said if Texas were to elect a Democrat, ahead of the fact that we're can't win the White House without Texas by the year 2032. If we were to do that ahead of that year, won't that change the entire game in America? Absolutely, it would. And he said, and this is for all of our great Power by People volunteers, Senator Sanders said, I see what your folks are doing out there, registering voters, staying in touch with them, getting turned out despite all this voter suppression. He said, I'm really inspired. And I said this to Bernie. I said, listen, I did not feel this 8 years ago when you were running for the nomination in 2016. I was a member of Congress, and I endorsed Hillary Clinton. I didn't feel this in 2020, and you all may remember briefly I was fighting for the nomination for the presidential primary. And I said, but I feel this now, Senator Sanders. You were right. You have been right all along. We need to make sure that every American has the story that you have, that they were worried about the story that you have, be a provider, be well enough to finish school, to go to work, to raise their kids, to just enjoy being on this planet and alive and doing their best for themselves and their fellow Americans. And so I said, hey, I see it now. And I'm so glad that you're checking in on us. And Bernie said, Beto, except for the time you chose to run against me in 2019, he said, I've always had a soft spot for you. So listen, we've got to get, I know so much of the energy right now is in resisting Trump. Absolutely appropriate. He must be resisted. The opposition must prevail. But it also has to include a vision. What is life going? The answer can't be no Trump. And no Trump isn't going to get it done for the people who are absolutely dissatisfied with the system. That's why they voted for Trump in the first place. This country, its institutions, the status quo, has absolutely failed. And so we have to offer, we, not just Democrats, Republicans, independents, just people, have to offer a vision for what is better. And what you described, minus being hassled by Medicare disadvantage, but what you described of that hospital visit, them taking care of you, fixing you, making you better, and you being able to go on with your life without having to pay anything out of pocket, that is where we have to be as a country. So that's part of my vision, at least. Health care for every single American without exception. So thank you for
Howdy, my name is John and I live in the Heights. What's the best thing that we can do for those of us that are taxation without representation? I live in CD 18, with no congressman since Sylvester Turner passed away, and it's like our governor is not one to even hold on elections in November. I have no congressman to reach out to in that case. Being in the famous CD 18 with legacy leaders like Sylvester Turner and Sheila Jackson Lee, and a governor that doesn't want to do his job. Thank you so much.
Great question. Let's think about what do we do when we aren't represented? What do we do if you live in CD2 and Danny Crenshaw won't host a town hall or just listen to you and be held accountable? I did that every single month when I was in Congress. Every single month, all comers welcome. No holds barred. You could ask any question, and you would. You could criticize me. You could disagree with me. You could hold me to account for promises I had made and failed to deliver on. And I'll tell you what, going into those town hall meetings, I had a very healthy dose of fear in my gut. I had to account for my time in this position that you had placed me in, and I'd better be able to show that I delivered. If you told me in June that you were having a hard time getting into the VA, by July, we had better have that fixed. I didn't want to see you get up to the microphone and say, hey, that's what I told you last month, I couldn't get into the VA. What are you going to do about it? You better have gotten into the VA. Bill ideas came out of meetings like these to offer more health care to more veterans who had it denied, because I sat on the VA committee, to address public lands in El Paso, to fix challenges that we have on the U.S.-Mexico border in the district I represent. All of that came out of meetings like these. That's why we held them. And then in District 18, Sheila Jackson Lee's former city, we have a number of amazing candidates who are here tonight. I heard Amanda Edwards' name mentioned. I think there are some others here as well. Governor Abbott has the power and the responsibility to fill that seat as quickly as possible. And uniquely, in the Senate, if there is an absence, the governor can appoint the new senator, right? They have sole discretion to get that done. Uniquely, the House, the people's institution, can only be filled by the people. So the governor is incumbent upon him to call an election. And he's not calling an election election. Why is he not calling that election in a timely fashion? Because that big, ugly budget bill that is a grab bag for Donald Trump and Elon Musk is going to cut millions off of Medicaid, that's going to raid Social Security, that is really going to royally screw this country passed by one vote in the House of Representatives. We want, the next time that comes up, for there to be a vote from the 18th district. We need a record, great effort, and those who have the power to hold that election to get it done. So, I hear you, and I think the answer to your question is if Dan Crenshaw won't hold the town hall, if we don't have a representative in District 18 to hold it in the first place, then those here among us, just like Karthik did by inviting us to come out and host this today, we have to step up and provide that, even if we don't have title or position or office that we are holding right now. I mean, really, this is going to be decided by the people. So, Tarini, do we have another question?
Yeah, the next question, right?
Great.
Hi, my name is Isana Baha, and I am a retired nurse. I don't actually have a question. I just want to say something about Medicaid cuts. Texas has the most nursing homes in the United States. Texas has almost 1,200 certified 24-hour skilled nursing homes. Average cost per month for a semi-private is over $5,000, and for a private room is around $7,000 monthly. Nursing homes are paid for with Medicaid funds. Even if you have Medicare, if you need care in a nursing home, you have to have Medicaid. The problem is, a nursing home can discharge you for non-payment. So if Medicaid is cut, who's going to take care of me? I'm a senior citizen. Who's going to take care of your parents? Can you really change a catheter at home or put a feeding tube in and out and do 24-hour care? People that are in nursing homes are not there always because they've just been put there because we couldn't take care of them. We didn't have time for them. People in nursing homes, residents, they need 24-hour care. It's hard to do if you're making $7 an hour. It's hard to do if you have a job and you have small ones at home. So, as a senior citizen, as a retired nurse, I have two choices. One choice is to end up in a nursing home and die because I got put out, even though my daughter said I could live with her and her husband, but she said that years ago when I wasn't as crazy as I am now. So now she's saying, oh no, Mom, I'm going to put a house in the back of our house. She's going to put me in our house. But my choices are to die in a nursing home or get put out of a nursing home or to fight like hell. Anybody in this room that knows me, you already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight like hell.
I love that. That's the spirit that the movement calls for. There's always hammering about the Democrats need to be more moderate, they need to be more progressive. Are they too much this, too much that? What's the message? No. Those are all false choices and the wrong questions. The one that's being called right now is, are we going to surrender or are we going to fight? And we are going to fight right alongside you. Thank you for being here.
Great. First of all, Beto, thank you for being here. We need educated, fired up people like you representing us, because with their, I'll tell you, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I am frustrated. And beyond frustrated, I'm pissed. Republicans, for all of their faults, one thing they are very, very good about is messaging. They mobilize. And I don't even attribute this to Donald Trump, because I don't even consider Trump a Republican. You'd have to dig pretty deep into the Republican playbook to find something that Trump is executing. But as Democrats, and I so appreciate what this gentleman said and what the woman over here said, these are real issues. These are real messages. And what do we get tied up in an election? We get tied up over the most extreme LGBTQ issues. We get tied up over men going into women's restrooms and that kind of bullshit. We get so tied up over the Second Amendment. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've never met one Democrat who wants to repeal the Second Amendment. But every Republican out there is petrified of that, and that's the thing that turns their vote. Instead of voting for the issues that this gentleman brought up, and instead of voting about the issues that all of the people who've spoken here tonight regarding health care, we're so tied up in fighting against these sort of phantom issues. And I guess my question for you, Beto, is this. What the hell are we doing at a national level to create a message that makes sense to Americans? I love what you said a moment ago about meeting Americans where they are. And that is absolutely essential. But what are we doing as a party to combat what the Republicans do? Because they are kicking our ass.
And I agree with you. I feel like they have chosen the terrain of every battle that we have fought for the last 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. They're just evil geniuses at this stuff. I mean, every Democratic challenger in 24 is trying to explain their position on bathrooms or these issues. And listen, not that it's unimportant for people who face this in their schools, but is it the most important issue? Is it the thing that we want people to be listening about? Is it the thing that we're fighting for? I mean, we are fighting so that you are paid enough not to work a second or a third job. We're fighting so that you can see a doctor and live to see the next day ahead without going bankrupt in the process. We are fighting so that you can come to this country in a safe, legal, orderly way and contribute to the very greatness that immigrants have made in the most diverse city in America every day that Houston has been on this planet. We are fighting so that your child doesn't have to worry, moms demand action, about a gunman entering that room with an AR-15 and blowing you away, right? We are fighting to protect, to deliver, and to work for each and every American so that they succeed. The challenge with this message is you can't say it so much as you have to show it. And so, when we went to every one of those 254 counties in 2018, be honest, how many of you knew there were 254 counties before we ran for Senate in 2018? I didn't know. What was the message from that campaign? How were we so damn successful in that year? Why did we have Ted Cruz on the back foot? Why did Greg Abbott have to spend a king's ransom to bail his ass out at the end for 2.5 points? But for that, I'd be speaking to you as a junior senator from the state of Texas right now. It's because we showed up, we listened to, and we fought for people, just like this gentleman said earlier. And that's what we're doing right now. I mean, this town hall tonight was preceded by 10 that we've already had last Monday in Garland, Texas. Before that, in Amarillo. Before that, Wichita Falls. Who knew that 470 people would come out in Wichita Falls? Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike. Mansfield, Texas. Fort Bend, Texas. I mean, we're going everywhere to listen to, fight with, fight alongside with, and be there for each and every single person. And anyone who tells you that they know the message right now, I don't know if they're being completely honest with you or real. The message, and I think you said it for all of us as best as can be said, the message is going to come from the people that we want to serve, right? The people that we want to deliver for. I mean, I'm going to repeat the story that I heard from you. This beautiful, amazing 72-year-old woman taking care of her 77-year-old husband who is fighting tooth and claw to make sure that she has every possible day with him to build these memories that are going to enrich the rest of her life. He has the best quality of life possible. That moved me so goddamn much. I want to share that story with every other person that I meet, right? And I also happen to think that politically and electorally, that is the right strategy. And I'll give you proof. First race I ever ran was in 2005 for the El Paso City Council. I'm going up against the mayor pro tem of El Paso, Anthony Cobos, who was going to outspend me in that race 4-1. Nobody knew who I was. Everyone knew who this guy was. And so I made a virtue of necessity. Didn't have money, didn't have a name ID. I knocked on doors each and every day. I'm in the Westford Canyon neighborhood on the west side of El Paso, and I knock on the door. Hey, my name's Beto O'Rourke, and I want to make sure that I keep your property taxes down, and we're working on more green space, and we're going to rewrite the subdivision code, and the person who answers the door stops me. They say, hey, that's great. But what I care about in the Westford Canyon neighborhood is they're about to develop and pave over Westford Canyon. So all this nature and wildlife, and the reason we moved here in the first place, is all going to be gone. I want you to focus on that and fix that. Second house I knock on. I give my same pitch, and the person at the end of it says, that's great, but we're really concerned about them developing Westford Canyon behind us. Third house I knocked on. They answer the door. Hi, my name is Beto O'Rourke, and I'm here to save Westford Canyon. We run every single vote in that neighborhood because we listen to people that we want to serve. Now, would a poll have told me that? Would a data scientist, a consultant, no. You've got to meet the people. Like democracy, I will speak Greek, but I think it has something to do with people, right? Lincoln, government of, by, and for the people. Politics, people. The technology, the money, the social media, the mailers, the TV ads, the radio spots, those are all a poor substitute for what we are doing right now. The message is not the media, the message is the people. If we will listen to them, they will give it to us, we share it back out there, and we start winning some elections. Thank you for asking the question. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Hello everyone, my name is Steve, aka Steve-O. Everybody calls me Steve-O. I'm from East Houston in Harris County, in the North Shore area. First and foremost, before I get started, I want to thank you for coming out here today and showing up and showing out. And I also want to applaud everybody in the audience for coming off from work, from school, through the heat and the traffic to get here to show up. So you asked, before you started the questions, you want to know what's going on out in our neighborhoods.
Yes, tell me.
So in my neighborhood, so everybody in East Houston knows Steve-O. I was a waiter and a bartender for years. I worked at McDonald's, Burger King. I'm a convicted felon. When I was 17 years old, I got in trouble and was convicted of a felony, and I did 6 months in Atascocita State Jail. That happened while I was in high school. I got out of high school, I got out of jail, went back to school, got my diploma, tried a little bit of trade school, a little bit of community college, wasn't for me, got into working. Never got into any more trouble. But I've done all the bad jobs, all the side jobs, the pipe yards, the McDonald's, the 213-hour plus tips at IHOP, working at Chili's, bartending here, bartending there. I've done all those jobs. And I always kept telling myself, when am I going to get the dream of getting me a job where I can live comfortably. I work for Solidago Residential. It's an apartment management company. I've been with them now for 2 years, but I got into apartment management during COVID. I was given an opportunity to get that kind of job. I've been promoted with this company. I started April the 4th, 2023. I've been promoted 3 times. So what I'm seeing in the neighborhoods, and what I'm seeing from people that I know, young people, I know people of all ages, one very, very important thing that Democrats threw out through the last election was calling Trump a felon, which he is. But to the young people out in the streets, that's a badge of honor. Listen to me, it's a badge of honor. To those 20-year-olds and those 19-year-olds and 23-year-olds who have somebody, their dad, their uncle, their brother, who's also a felon, but they still look up to them and count that person, that's a badge of honor. So a lot of them ran to the polls just because the guy's a felon. I kid you not, I can tell you people who would tell you this to your face. That's why they voted for him. Another thing out there in the streets is social media. Trump's son, Barone, I guess controlled all the social media or something for him, or was posting a lot of stuff for Trump on TikTok and this and that. That's very important for you guys to key on. I mean, I'm not talking about just one little small ad. You guys have got to get these social media ads. You got to get Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You got to get Snapchat. Any kind of way you can run promotions out there, you've got to get there. Those young people love to eat that. The time's not different. It's not like growing up in the 90s. 2000 when we didn't have that social media stuff. That stuff is key now. So you want to hit these young people, that's the area you have to go to. One last thing before I finish. Going forward for the 2028 election, 2032, 2036, my question is, what can we do? What more can we do? Texas hasn't voted blue since 1976 for the presidential election. 1976. What more can we do? What else can I do? I do my best on social media. I have me and my friend Brandon run a small little media page called SGX Media on Instagram and Facebook. We do our best to just inform people and to just try to get people to understand how important this is. And this is another thing, Beto. A lot of the people right now, the young people, to my 18 to 28, 30-year-olds, all they care about is themselves, unfortunately. They don't really think about the people coming after them or the people that will be for them. It's about me. What can I do? How can you guys also put our message out there to get them to understand the importance of it not about you, it's about us. Because before I finish, my last thing, I promise you.
No, keep going.
I never ever thought that I'd ever come to one. It's my first time ever coming to a town hall meeting. I'm a big bird guy. God, I love that guy. Voted for those primaries. I also voted for you in 2018, not knowing much about you. But there was some young man that I know that's from El Paso who knew a lot about you, who informed me about you. And I watched your message, I watched your speeches, I follow all your social media. I voted for you in 2018, I voted for you in 2020. I will vote for you and for everything you come forward.
This is going to be his last thing.
I promise you guys. There's a song that's for this country that there's some words in this song. I think that has what's been lost with all generations in this country. And it goes, God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her with the light, with the side from above. This land is my land. What's that? This land was made for you and me. Thank you, people.
I love bringing it home with Woody Guthrie. And you may or may not know this, but Woody Guthrie cut his teeth in Texas. I think it was Pampa, Texas. There's a drugstore he bought his first guitar in, and you can go there, and there's a plaque, there's a Woody Guthrie museum right next to that. I know that because we held town hall meetings in Hammond, Texas, right? Home to the harvesters, I think. So you asked a couple questions, but Steve, I'm going to take the most important one. You said, what can we do? And look, I gave you the history lesson earlier. I'm not asking you to run into cannon fire like those brave boys did in the early 1860s. I'm not asking you to go up against fire hoses and police dogs like those brave women and men and boys and girls, like school children. Like left school, ditched school, to go up and march and fight for their right to just be treated as human beings with full constitutional rights in this country. And they were met by fire hoses and dogs and in prison for having the courage of their condition. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm not going to ask you to do what Septima Clark did when she ran these citizenship schools across the Deep South at the risk of her own life. Because in Alabama, you had to be able to recite parts of the state constitution if they were going to register you to vote if you were black, and she would help you to learn the state constitution by heart so that you can do that. I'm not going to ask you to do that either. What I am going to ask you to do is these folks are in the yellow and the pink vests all around the room. They will sign you up, Steve, and will sign anybody else up who's interested. And they will train you to become what is known as a volunteer deputy registrar in Texas. Why is that important? In 2025, You still cannot register to vote online in Texas. You can in almost every other state in the union. There's no automatic voter registration when you're a U.S. citizen and you turn 18. You have that in other states. There's no same-day voter registration. You have to have, speaking of young people, you have to have a stamp, whatever that is, and an envelope, fill out a voter registration form, and put that sucker in the mail, or you have to find the time to go down to the county courthouse, meet the county registrar or her staff, sign up to vote there, or if you're lucky enough to own a vehicle, maybe you can do it at the DMV. So there are all these conditions that people have to meet that they're unable to often by the millions to meet. So what do we do in the breach? Well, we sign up for these folks in the vest. We train you to become BDRs. You are now legally able to register people that you meet who are unregistered and eligible. You bring them onto the rolls, and again, importantly, this is unique with Powered by People, we're going to ask you to personally stay in touch with that person that you just registered. They will not hear from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for that matter. They will not hear from candidate Colin Allred or Winnie Davis or Beto O'Rourke or Amanda Edwards. They won't hear from anybody except for the person who registered them to vote, the person that they met eyeball to eyeball, face to face, human to human. And look, it's not perfect, it's not fail-safe, but it's pretty damn powerful. The turnout rate for 18 to 29-year-olds, this is the demographic that we're registering to vote across Texas, nationally is 42%. Thanks to these amazing Powered by People volunteers, the turnout rate for people that we registered and stayed in touch with in 2024 was 79% across the state of Texas. So we want you to sign up and do this work. And look, sometimes I get down on young people too. I'm living with 3 of them. My oldest is 18, I got a 16-year-old about to be 17. And yes, sometimes I just think they are so focused on themselves and their devices and their needs, and like, can you please put the cereal box back up after you spilled milk all over the counter, just like it takes you 3 seconds to clean that up. But when I was going through that pantheon of American heroes, and I was talking about, at every turn, it wasn't the people in power, it was the people in this country who delivered the power. I mean, who's landing on those beaches in Normandy in 44? I think there's like over 9,000 white crosses on the beaches of Normandy in France, of Americans and allies who gave their lives. They're 17, they're 18, they're 19. Is John Alvarado still here? John, yes. And tell me your last name? Alvarado. Yes, John Alvarado, I got it right. Will you stand up for a second? I'm going to tell everybody your story. I met John when I came in here tonight. He came over and kindly introduced himself. This guy, believe this or not, okay? But I heard it directly from him. He's 15 years old, lies about his age during the Korean War to say that he's 17. 17 was the minimum age you had to be in order to enlist. And if you were 17 and not yet 18, you had to have your mom or dad sign your enlistment form because you're not yet an adult in this country. Not only was he not 17, he was 15 years old. And he told me about how he was able to fudge his age on his birth certificate so he could lie because he was so desperate to enlist and fight for his country. This guy at the age of 15 is sent overseas to Korea, signs a blank check to this country, willing to do whatever we ask him to do, willing to frankly give his life for America. Thank God he came back with it to this country. This guy swore an oath, not to the president, not to a political party, not to anybody in power, but the United States Constitution. If you are inspired by this guy's story and his service, it is that very Constitution that is under attack right now. So these young people, sometimes as young as 15, they show up and they come through for us. Let's not sleep on them. Let's get them registered to vote, remind them of their history, and turn them out. You are the hero. Thank you, John.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to do the photo line now. If y'all can please form a line in the right corner, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that was our last question. Thank you all for coming out here tonight.